Part one of how I found my apartment in Paris. Are you a black woman solo traveler? Are you a black woman who wants to move abroad but you don't really know how to do it? Hey sis, come on in. I need you to go on ahead and hit the subscribe button. This is the community for you. This is where we uplift, motivate, and inspire black women to live the travel lives of their dreams. Do me a favor, definitely hit that subscribe button and also the thumbs up button, and share this video and comment and let me know what you're feeling below. So a viewer asked me to go more into detail about how I found my apartment here in Paris. And I'm going to tell you, listen, all the prayers of Black Jesus, all the ancestors, all of them, okay? It takes all of that and then some. You need to listen, Black Jesus, Devontae Christ, Buddha, all the Hail Marys, okay? All the saints, all the Catholic saints. You need some of everybody and everything to find an apartment here, it feels like. And it really is true. For those of you who are interested in moving to Paris, I will just tell you that this is one of the more competitive rental markets. The south of France is the other. They're also very competitive and they're also very expensive. So it really just depends on where you want to move in terms of finding a place here in Paris. The one thing I will say off the rip is that there are more people here than there are places to fit them. So there are more people here looking for housing than there is available housing. So it's a shortage. And I will also tell you that your status as an immigrant to this country does not really help you. It actually hurts you. And the reason is because, French laws, housing laws are very different. And so their housing laws, they are notorious. They're famous for they used to have these laws called squatters laws, right? They're known for that. And so if once you occupy a place, you occupy it, and it used to be really difficult to kick you out. And so that spawned a whole category of folks who would live in places for years and years and years and not get put out. Now that affected the rental market because, landlords knew that it is hard once they get a tenant who does not pay. It's going to be difficult and could be a years plural long process to get them out. So that impacts you as a potential renter because French property owners prefer to rent to other French people, meaning if there's a problem, they could they could sue them in court. Okay, you as an American or from another country is a little bit more difficult. So never mind the fact that we make more money. Typically, immigrants to this country make more money. The average, I think it's almost 90% of people in Paris make under 4K a month. So that lets you know off the rip. A lot of times, if you are an immigrant coming to another country, honey, it's a money game. So chances are you have a disposable income and you make enough income to be able to survive a lot of times better than a lot of the folks who are your average Parisian or your average person here. Okay, so that being said, none of that really matters if folks don't want to rent to you. So know that going into this is going to be difficult because of the sheer competition. It's going to be difficult because, there is not a willingness sometimes to rent to foreigners. And I am a foreigner. I mean, I call myself a bunch of different things. I call myself an expat. I call myself an immigrant. Bottom line is I'm a foreigner. And so that was why initially when I came here and my partner, was just like moving with me. And I did mention on the other video, I will link that in the description, how initially when I moved here, I did not get, there was a property that I wanted that I did not get. And this was 3 months before moving here, found a beautiful, loft apartment. I think it was about €1,200. It was in a great area, and my partner went to go see it. I was in the U.S. at that time, so I was working on trying to get the apartment. He's, WhatsApping me video. WhatsApp is like a video platform, right? It's a texting and video platform, and I'm seeing it. I'm loving it. I talked to the owner, the owner's son, and I just fell in love with the place. The problem was why I could not end up getting it is because I needed a guarantor. Now I didn't know that. I didn't know what a guarantor was. So let me back up. First of all, let me first say also, getting an apartment here is not like getting an apartment in the US. You know, you can just go online with a few clicks, see what vacancies and apartment openings are out there online, make an appointment, go see it the next day. You got the money, you got the credit, you could potentially have you a place to stay. It is not like that here. It is the total opposite. It really is based upon who you know. A lot of that is based upon who you know and just being lucky. So for me, I looked out, was not able to get the apartment that I wanted. They wanted a guarantor. They were not willing to wait until I could get one. That process can take as little as 24 to 48 to 72 hours. It doesn't take that long, but I didn't know that at the time. So I had to miss out on a property. So when I moved here in January, initially I moved in with my partner. Now he lives about 30 miles outside of Paris. That is about, it takes about 30, he's 30 minutes away from the city by fast train. By slow train, he's about an hour away from Paris. It would take about, to get into the city, about an hour and a half or so to 2 hours. And so a lot of my activities are in Paris. I mentioned in the other video, which, you know, I'm a kizomba dancer. I dance. A lot of the activities I do are pretty much in the city. It makes it very difficult, and I don't drive, so I'm taking public transportation. So living where he lived just really wasn't convenient, and I had to make a decision. I moved thousands of miles away from Atlanta to Paris, and it was important for me to live where I wanted to live. And unfortunately, the area that he lived, you know, was the suburbs. Suburban life is very different here. It is aspirational for sure for a lot of people because you get way more space. His space is twice the size of mine, and he pays a whole lot less rent than I do. And he has a full backyard, right? So it is, and a patio. So it is entirely different living in the suburbs as opposed to Paris. Paris is where you don't get space. You do not get space here. You get space further out. So I had to make a decision. And so I began looking for a property again and went through that whole process, had him help me. And it was a lot. There were a lot of times folks did not contact me back. I would contact realty agencies. They would not even email me back, would not even call back. It just was nothing. The language barrier did not help. I can remember one time we called, there was a site, there's a popular site called Leboncoin, leboncoin.com. And guys, I will list some resources in the description. So for you guys who might be looking as well, but Leboncoin is a popular one. And child, is all kind of scams on there. Almost got scammed a few times. Okay, so you have to really, really be careful. There are a lot of people who do list properties. Some people have had good luck with Leboncoin. I did not. I had people either trying to scam me, trying to get my documents, or I had people just, you know, would list a property. I would call, contact them, or he would call and contact them, and they would hear, you know, a voice over the phone, and they would say, no, we don't have anything available. I don't have anything available. So you know how that goes, and you know what that's like. There are no housing laws, discrimination laws here in France, but it definitely happens, and people are very selective about who they choose to rent to. So sometimes, you know, being Black, being African, sometimes being Arab, it can be very difficult. Being a foreigner, it can be very difficult to find a spot here. So I ended up lucking up after going on there was a site that I went on because initially, you know, I thought about Airbnb. Airbnb is great to find a spot temporarily, but Airbnb is really expensive, and Parisians don't go on Airbnbs to find properties. Those are generally aimed at tourists. Most Airbnbs, honestly, they're too expensive for most Parisians to afford. So I ended up going on this site called morningcroissant.com. And again, I will list that in the description. And that is where I found this property. Morning Croissant is a competitor to Airbnb. It is like Airbnb. The only difference is that you pay a deposit and you can get a rental anywhere short term to long term, but you pay a deposit. And so that was the site that I used. I went to look at several properties, some of them not in some not so good neighborhoods, and they didn't work out for whatever reason. So either the landlord did not, I went to one property, the person never showed up after making an appointment and confirming, came to find out she had car issues, at least that's what she said, but I never heard back from her again. And so I ended up coming to this location, and the gentleman asked me, did I like it? I said I did. And, came here with my partner to visit it, and he asked me a few questions, and boom, bam. Next day I had it. I mean, not next day, but I had to submit my documentation. So I want to say in 72 hours I had it. And so meanwhile, going back to my earlier point about getting a guarantor, I used a company called Guarant Me. Guarant Me is essentially a cosigner. And I thought, I'm like, at my big age, with my credit score, no, those things do not matter in France. Your credit score in the US does not matter. They don't use a credit scoring system. That is only for the US. So, guarantee me, I had to, provide my paycheck stubs, provide my W-2s. I had to provide a letter of reference from my employer stating that I could work in France. I had to provide my visa, my 1-year visa. I had to provide all the kind of documentation, passports, all of that good stuff. And they essentially guaranteed that if I don't pay, they will. Now, they would still come, if I don't pay, they're going to still come and garnish me. But it is something that landlords feel more comfortable renting. And think about it. If you had essentially a cosigner or company that would cosign you, if I'm a landlord, I'm definitely feeling more positive about that particular tenant. So it is a way that you're able to kind of up your odds of getting approved for a rental. And I can understand why landlords would prefer, and a lot prefer that you have a guarantor because they want to get their money at the end of the day. And again, knowing how French housing laws are now, in recent years, those housing laws have become more favorable to landlords, and you can't just squat on a property like you used to be able to. But still, those guarantors are important, and if you're considering coming to France, I would highly suggest that you look at getting one. I use Guarant Me. Another one is called Visale, Visale. There another one, if you are a student, there are a couple ones, and a student is if you are under 26, okay? For those of you who may be younger, if you are under, I think it's actually maybe under 30, actually. It's a bit easier if you're a student to get a property because some properties are designated only for students. I'm obviously not student age or student category, but you pretty much have to, unless you know somebody, get a guarantor. Now, there were a few other options. Were some co-housing potentials that were available that really kind of co-housing opportunities where they target expats, but you're pretty much in a very big property. You're sharing your space with a lot of folks. You can have your own private bathroom and bedroom, but you're sharing the common areas. That was an option. I didn't really want to do that option. I'm glad that I ended up not doing that option, but if I had to, it just was an option to have. I looked at what else, getting a roommate, and I looked at going into a roommate situation. That did not work out. It was a nice property, but honestly, the roommates were a lot younger, were in college, and they did not keep that property as clean as I would have wanted to. So I just knew going into it, it was going to be really difficult. I have lived on my own. I mean, I got married at 20 years old, and, I've been on my own since then. No roommate ever. So, either living with my husband or living by myself after he passed away, obviously. So, and with my children. So, a roommate situation for me, I just kind of felt like it could possibly work, but it just wasn't ideal. Like, I'm at the age where I kind of need my own space, and I like what I like, and I have my own habits or whatever. So it just did not quite work out with that, and it was a good thing it didn't, because this property became available, and it's been a great place for me to be in. And I don't really have many complaints, other than it's a small space, but it is what it is. It's in Paris. It's just me. Um, and it just everything is kind of, excuse me, everything is kind of worked out. So that is the process of what it took for me to get a rental property here. You are really going to have to spend up. Just listen. If you think it's going to take you 3 months, it's going to take you 6. If you think it's going to take you 6 months, it's going to take you a year. I'm telling you, whatever time you think it's going to take you to find a property, double that, because it takes that much time. I was fortunate and blessed that I was able to walk into this situation after looking and looking and looking. I mean, you have to pretty much make finding a property a full-time, at least a part-time job. So in my next video, I will talk about why I did not hire a real estate agency here. They call them immobilier. And I will talk about why I did not go that route. That route costs you a couple thousands of dollars minimum. And I will also talk about how the rental market is so competitive that you're going to pay a deposit and also a rental agency fee. Yeah, so get ready to come out of your pocket. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You guys, don't forget, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. Let me know how you're feeling in the comments. Are you looking at moving to Paris? Are you in the beginning of your rental search? Where are you? Where are you in your rental search? And if not Paris, where are you? Where are you planning to move? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let me know how you're feeling in the comments. Stay tuned for the next video in the series of finding an apartment rental in Paris. Until the next video, you guys.